these lawyers who you all employ through you all's, you all pulling those funds, or you all have these housing programs, or you all have this process that helps me, fast track being able to get this expunged because, you all directly for this, things like that. I think, first of all, a program like that talks directly to people who've been incarcerated wouldn't have to even be around indefinitely. It'll be around probably for 20, 30 years. So you can like make sure everyone who's been affected is taken care of. But outside of that, on a Merp level, as far as what we can do, I think that's important. We can't be hypocrites, talk about everybody else, but they're not doing that, talk about what we're doing. So for what we're doing on our end, we don't have a lot of upfront capital, we don't have a lot of money, so we cannot invest millions into black-owned companies or even individuals. What we can do is that we can take the money we do have and put some of that towards directly to the communities that the markets we're entering in. So Chicago is the first market we're entering in. And so we are working with community organizations and saying, okay, legislatively, how can we support that? How to support you? And then on a community level, what are programs we can set up, whether that be taking care of the families of the people who are incarcerated, using a little money we do have to figure out how can we make, if that's $100 Visa gift cards we can give out, how do we do direct aid, but also do the work on the legislative level too, because it's a two kind of prong kind of thing happening here. And then down the line, as far as getting more black on campus companies out there, Merp wants to be able to eventually, start pulling some of our funds towards creating new dispensaries and growing operations that Black and brown people who've been affected, or who are just Black and brown who've been affected, tangentially like Kyra or directly, can come to us and say, I want to start a business. Here's our business plan. I want to apply for this. And then we can get a team together, review it, and figure out where these resources can go to create more of these businesses. Because currently there are not a lot of Black on campus businesses. So these are just a few ways, things that Merp hopes to do right now, and in the future hopes to do more larger scale things. But as an industry and as a country, I think that people can come together and agree, the bigger players who are in this industry come together and put a certain amount of dollars into this fund that is managed, sort of like a coalition that is managed, and people can come in and get those resources that have been put there by the companies that are benefiting from the industry that burnt them.
Yeah. I think people don't understand how the different industries that we feel like we don't have access to have so many jobs. So someone knows, I'm a nerd, I watch a lot of weird stuff. And so I've been watching Formula One show on Netflix. And one company, Mercedes, spends almost $500 million for Formula One racing. They only have one season, and I think it lasts for 9 months. $400 million, almost $500 million. And there's only really one black face, and that's the driver. But there's no jobs for to be a mechanical engineer, to be an engineer, to be on the team, to be on the staff, HR, communications, all kinds of stuff. I think in cannabis, you think dispensary. And I think people understand, you can help people go to school and be able to study, plants and soil, and be able to help, be efficient in growing. People becoming a paralegal and maybe working in a cannabis lawyer's office. There are so many different ways, becoming a communications person for a brand or for a dispensary. There are so many different avenues for people to make a living that Black and brown people are not the face of yet. And so I think the jobs in that industry has not been fully untapped and has not been fully realized by our communities yet.
And I think just one more thing on that, Kyra hit a good point there, is that a lot of people think that we talk about equity, that in order for, that means us, maybe if you're incarcerated, you own a business or you doing something within cannabis. No, some people have been burnt by this industry, no one, they can do it afterwards, and that's fair. And so also, how do we do something where people can still be taken care of and go out there and endeavor into something else? If they want to go be a barber, if they want to do a trade, if they want nothing to do with the cannabis industry, this industry still burnt them and took some of their lives. How do we still respond to that as well? So there are several things happening here at once, but Kyra mentions a good point. It's not all, equity doesn't always mean it has to be circle back to cannabis industry always. Obviously it starts from us because the industry, is the one that burnt them, but it does not end or have to even involve us at the end point. So that's the whole conversation too, is that I mentioned that quid pro quo that happens sometimes when companies do equity, is that asking to give, and that's not equity. So
thank you guys so much for literally educating myself, Grace, and all the people who will be watching this. My last question for you guys would just be what is your personal experience with cannabis? I know for me, I like to you know, display myself as like a holistic kind of individual. I don't really like taking medicine unless I'm like on my deathbed, and like that's the only ultimatum. But I don't like taking any medicine that involves pills or any of those things. And I look to cannabis to really like try to relieve some pain, whether that's during my menstrual cycle or anything that I'm going through. So I would like to know y'all's basically personal experience with cannabis.
Yeah, and I'm definitely like on the opposite side of that. Like I'm here for a leave. I'm here for prescription medication. I never have. I don't think I ever will, right? But I think that's also like the stigma, right? It's just like, just because you're associated, like that has to mean that you know you do, but also breaking those things and getting people to understand, as both of you have really illustrated to us, like purposeful change that can exist in a new industry and a new job market.
Yeah, so I think you are at two ends of like, you know, canvas here. Like, you know, you don't use it, and in Grace, you mentioned like the stigma. And so one thing we're doing, like, first of all, I have a lot of people in my circle who smoke, who use cannabis. And cannabis is not just THC, it's CBD as well as hemp. So let's just like put that out there. You know, there are different forms of cannabis, of marijuana, that are not THC, which is the psychedelic, psychoactive aspect of cannabis. But I think that I know people who are teachers, who are, and once again, this is all in like legal states. You know, even if it wasn't, they're a marijuana smoker can have a look, but does not necessarily have one. There are moms who you know, who might smoke in their backyard just to release themselves because, you know, it's been a long day. You know, there are different reasons than people. There are grandmothers who might be in pain, who might not have an appetite because of, maybe they're on chemo, who want to smoke to the appetite. So there are different reasons for using marijuana. And so you cannot, it's like alcohol. No one says that alcohol, no, it may be somebody who may abuse alcohol, may have certain tells health-wise, not even that, like health-wise, I wouldn't say looks, that may like give like some hint of that, but I think there's no look of somebody who uses marijuana or alcohol and the other, or those substances. I won't say about other ones. I don't know too much about, you know, other substances kind of thing. But I think that we were trying to like break that down. As far as where I come in, when I first started smoking, someone gave me Reggie. So it wasn't even, and Reggie is like, it's fake, like weak, like not like, you know, family's like, yeah, it's not good stuff. And so I got a headache, you know, and didn't touch it for a little bit, for a while. And then as actually towards the end of my college career, you know, it's legal in Boston, but just the cost of it, taxes, I never really bought it. I just like particular with my friends. I started using marijuana socially, just to, like, get my brain kind of like flowing. I have a lot of anxiety, so it helped me to just relax, and just like, you know, relieve from that. But then now in my everyday life, or now where I'm right now, I'm similar to Pamela in that I'm not a big like pharmaceutical drug person. Like I'm not against them. Like, you know, by all means, if I'm in excruciating pain, I will take an Aleve or an Advil. But I think that my first thing, especially if it's like bodily aches and cramps, like my period, I will usually go get an edible and take that, and it usually really does help me to like alleviate some pain. But I do also use it just like I'll use it almost like wine. Like I'm a big WW wine and weed person. So that's my whole thing. So like, it's not for me, like it is, I don't want to say like, you know, I don't use it for like medicinal, you know, purposes. No, I use it for both, you know, pleasure, for like for relaxation, for some ways to like help, you know, me with certain ailments. I use it in different aspects for different things. Cannabis has different uses for different people, and so I use it in a lot of different ways. Like I said, for intimacy with a partner, that helps me lower my anxiety. I'm a really anxious person, so it helps me to like be able to focus on the experience in the moment. I use it for you know, just to relax and watch a movie and like, you know, get more into like the nuances of movies or music, or I'll use it for like cramps. So I have a wide use case for like cannabis, and why I use it. That's my experience.
And I am like Grace on the other end, where I have tried it, but for me personally, it doesn't really do much. And I'm Jamaican, so I've been to Jamaica before. I've been to a Rastafarian party before. Strong, but it doesn't really do much for me. And I've tried it in different forms, so it's just not my thing. But I can see, you know, how it helps other people and how, you know, it helps other people live their lives or experience their lives differently. And so I think where it comes in, it's fun for me being in this company, it's us on our social media platforms, be able to educate people on the different ways you can implement cannabis, and guiding them into, still talking to their doctor, but saying, hey, you can use it this way. Here are some safety guidelines. Entering in with your partner, or maybe doing something dumb, watching a movie. I think that's the fun aspect for me of being able to make sure helping our social media people craft that story on our platforms, even though I'm not fully a part of it. Because it don't hit me. I don't know if something's wrong with me, but it just doesn't hit me that way.
Yeah, I also think that like you may not even use THC. Everything we're talking about campus, it all goes to THC, but there are also a lot of hemp products, a lot of CBD oils and tinctures and topicals that will not give you any psychoactive psychedelic effect. So there are hemp blankets. There are all sorts of uses for like cannabis. Cannabis business is the new almost almond milk or coconut milk.
Yeah.
So like it is a new thing, and yeah. Grace, you're like, what? I wouldn't go that far. No, Grace is like, I don't want all that. So like, I think that
soap, skincare, makeup.
Yes. Yeah, hemp is there. So Grace, I understand. You're like, I'm good, but also Grace, you never know. Hemp has no THC in it, so it might just be like, oh, it's just like. Grace is like, why are you laughing at
me? No, I think yes. Yes, and this is what this is for, so people can just get educated, so people can just know what's out there and know like the other side of this.
No. Yeah. I said it's gonna be once again. Hemp was picked up by a certain group in this country. Once a certain group started drinking, we see with quinoa. Once a certain group started eating quinoa became the it food. Hemp is that once certain people start using hemp and started using it and for regular things for sewing, clothes, that kind of thing. Now hemp is very, very mainstream. Hemp, which is the byproduct of marijuana, of cannabis. But yeah.
I just want to thank you guys so much. This has been such an amazing, educational, fun, insightful conversation. Thank you for the work that you're doing, especially changing, the face of the cannabis industry. And I think like there are always these notions of like professionalism and like, what does that look like? And, who is really taking the charge in terms of doing these things? And so I'm so excited that a company like Merp exists, that products like Merp exist for people who are looking for them and have a new alternative to support always Black owned businesses, Black queer women owned businesses. And so this is absolutely amazing. Thank you guys so much for coming on Vintage. Is there any last advice really that you would have to, give other young women or even like, young Black people that are trying to get into industries that traditionally, may not be ours or have negatively affected us or whatever the reason may be, and just going for it, having an idea, but executing on that dream?
I think that I would say use the community you do have. And I think that one thing that we have come into contact with is, there are some companies who are women owned, Black owned, who may not want anything to do with us, who don't want to work with us, who want to build, and I say, let's build community. They don't want to build community. And that is not a hard and fast rule, but I do think that is unfortunate. I think that there is so much power within marginalized communities, women, Black, Indigenous, Asian communities. There are a lot of power there. So I think I would say build with the community you have around you, but also be tenacious. I think entrepreneurship, there's no roadmap. There is no one size fits all. I think that there is a way that you can come to business and you can be professional, but also still be warm. I think that, I would revoke the statement that business is not personal. I think in a society where that like capitalism, a system that puts some of your value in your ability to produce and labor and in your productivity, that because of that, business is always personal. So I think that until that shift happens, that statement business is not personal, it always is personal, because you are viewing people through what they do and how much productivity they have. So I think that's one thing. I think that, like I said, always kind of business professional, ready to work. But I think professionalism does not mean tie. It means being warm, talking, listening to what's being said, and addressing someone and the way they want to be addressed and correctly. So that's just my thoughts and my experience as far as a founder. It's just like some of the experiences I've had and advice I can give.
I would say I was on the same lines. From different aspects of being multicultural, I think is interesting